First of all, I've been working in substance abuse for a long time. As you all know, you've filmed many of these things. So we have now got to the point in time where we have three basic units. One, we know that it's best to connect the law, education, and medicine for a well-reasoned result. And we now, because of that, are teaching other lawyers and other doctors, and we're teaching other people how to work directly with addicts, alcoholics, and their families. So I would call that tier one. Tier two is a desire when we find like-minded people, like-minded lawyers, educators, and doctors. They're professionals, and sometimes they have different concepts. But we're now experiencing a reoccurring theme where we're finding like-minded people respond to what we're doing, and we're responding to what they're doing. And so we're now identifying them and working together. That's tier two, where, we quote the famous prophet Isaiah, "Come now, let us reason together." So that's tier two. And tier three is the coming out party of tier one and two. It happens in a high school, and it happens in a brick and mortar facility, and the entire community shows up, and we can do something exciting for the community. I'm talking about marijuana, I'm talking about alcohol, I'm talking about pain medication that is prescribed indiscriminately over and over again. Anything that takes your conscious mind and separates it from your choice-making ability, to me, is substance abuse. We know that the best form of treatment, the most effective form of treatment, is prevention. So if we're going to try to prevent, I think you should start in the schoolhouse. I was surprised to get invited to the National Honor Society in Newcastle High School. As you know, that's where I went to high school. I played football there back when we had 700 and plus students in our graduating class. We dominated the WPIL in football, and I was lucky to be part of that. So it was exciting, but it also was pressure. And so I went in there and I said, okay, I want to give these kids something that is engaging. So the title for the speech became Victory, Defeat, Do Something. I wanted to teach them how to win. When I used to coach football, I used to tell my kids, please, if you score a touchdown, act like you've been in the end zone before. There's a way to win and not be nasty about it or not be a smart aleck. We live in a world that is moving, and it is my humble opinion that if you are not moving, it's leaving you behind. I see it all the time in my profession where people overanalyze something, the paralysis of analysis. So at some point in time, we need to do something. We talk about FDR, and he said, back in a time when we have national crisis, that we should do something. If it doesn't work, do something else. If that doesn't work, admit it frankly and do something else. Captain Rostron from the Carpathia in our Titanic little display there. He didn't know how he would get through the North Atlantic to the Titanic. He didn't know if his boilers would explode. He didn't know if he would hit an iceberg himself. He just did something. As a coach, I can tell you, I will take a kid any day of the week who will do something that might even be wrong. I can make something happen out of that, but do something. And see, that's where the courage comes in, where you rob yourself of opportunities to grow. Taking a chance is important. And again, we go back to Theodore Roosevelt. I love working Theodore Roosevelt and FDR into the equation. Remember, Theodore Roosevelt was a Republican. Franklin was a Democrat. Franklin idolized Theodore, but they were definitely at two ends of the political spectrum here. But they both are memorable. And Theodore's quote in Paris, I think it was 1908, in the arena, to never, ever be among those timid souls who know neither victory or defeat. So that's why we go back to our Titanic, and we talk about the Titanic being the largest moving man-made object on the face of the earth. Although my daughter, who I consider an expert, would quarrel with me on the facts on this. A lot of scholars think that had the Titanic hit the iceberg head on, instead of trying to steer away from it, ripping 7 compartments, it may have had a decent chance of surviving and not sinking. So our goal is to, hey, you make mistakes, hit it head on. Don't try to alibi out of it. I'm 36 years old when I graduate from law school, okay? Nobody teaches you how to be a lawyer. I'm starting a whole business all over again. And so we basically went where the work took us. And it's taken me to some probably 32 counties. I think we've filed papers or appeared in at least 7 to 14 different states, and I know 2 countries. Joshua Bell, from what I'm told, is a gifted solo violinist. They kind of calculated what he charges when he packs the Holiday Bowl, for example, in California. And when they figured it out, it came out to anywhere from thousands to $100,000 an hour. You know, if you took the seats and the prices and all that, and you're in the entertainment business, you know that. So somebody set him up in a subway in Washington, D.C., and he was playing to see how people would respond to that. He was there for an hour approximately. He made $7. There's several lessons from that. One is, out of context, we don't recognize something sometimes. Somebody may overlook a student, may overlook a person, and that person has special skill sets and special talents and whatnot. So Joshua Bell, to me, is a person who would demonstrate how sometimes we move so fast we don't look intently enough. Because when somebody gets you convinced that you're not successful or you're not special, they're right. I think it was Margaret Thatcher who said that nobody has the right to, nobody can ruin you but you. And I have to say, it's all about want to rather than IQ. It's all about that desire. And I never doubted for a minute that I would not be successful at those things. But I don't think a person can ever be successful at anything unless they convince themselves. So we're in church anyway. The priest said, I want you to imagine I left you that tomorrow you woke up and there was $1,440 in your checking account, electronically transferred there. And you have no idea where it came from. And you can keep it. You can do whatever you want with it, but you must spend it. If you don't spend it, the next day it'll be gone. How many people would spend that? Of course, everybody raised their hands or nodded, and some people said, oh, the trick, so they didn't raise their hand at all. But he went on to say, okay, and the next day you get another $1,440. And the next day. And eventually people would run out of things to buy. So most people said that, well, at least give it to somebody or some worthy cause, and they would not waste it. They would not let it go. So he quickly said, each day, each one of us are given 1,440 minutes of life in 24 hours. How do you spend yours? And then he immediately went into 900 of it probably is sleeping. So what do you got left? 500 minutes or so? How many of those minutes do you spend hating somebody? How many of those minutes do you spend angry at somebody? How many minutes do you spend not telling somebody, a loved one, that you love them or reaching out to the community? That stuck to me like a wet t-shirt. So at 67, I am saying, going back to do something, make choices, believe in yourself. You got about 500 minutes a day. Use them wisely. Don't use them for hate. One of the joys of being 67 is I've met so many really neat people in my life. Alexander Lindsay, he is a trial lawyer's lawyer. You see him on TV all the time. He's a great communicator. He's a great person. And we teach CLE classes together, and it's so neat. I always believe that if you put good people in one location, good things happen for everybody. Alexander Lindsay, who's an experienced trial attorney, took it as a playwright and created a fact situation that is so tight that the driver in Al's adaptation lives, and he didn't in the movie. And it's so close of a call because of the facts the playwright, Mr. Lindsay, wrote. He's a trial tactics instructor. For example, did the alcohol condition of the driver cause the death? Those things are close legal calls that any jury could resolve that either way, and this young man goes to prison for 3 years. But it's kind of like your classic Hamilton Burger from Perry Mason and Perry Mason, Al Lindsay, okay? And they always square off at each other. And I'll tell you what, they try that thing. And again, going back to Al, it's so tight that the beyond a reasonable doubt, guilty or not guilty, that seems to go back and forth. And every time they do the trial, they're kind of into it. They're both very good trial lawyers, though. What a story he is, huh? And I know that you've filmed Neil before. Neil had that bout with cancer, and he's probably if he's not, he certainly should be one of the world's most famous addiction physicians there are. he's such a wonderful person too. And a man, he called me a couple of weeks before the Newcastle High School event that you did for us and said, Angelo, I'm sorry, I can't make it this one. I said, oh, well, what's up? Well, he says, I had stomach pains and I went in. He found out he had this rare form of cancer. And of course, his interview talks about that. We're attracting other professionals. We have Harry Hawes as a brand new addiction physician. We have lawyers who are responding to what we're doing. Frank Micah down there in the state of Virginia. It's just a wonderful event. It's a wonderful thing. And it's wonderful to get them all together and plow ahead.